A very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to session 3 of the FDP on advanced and innovative approaches in management education. And the topic for this session is future skill sets. And I have the pleasure to welcome Mr. Sudhir Dasmantharao for this particular session. Mr. Sudhir is a director and head of Global Business Services, APAC, at Boston Scientific. Sir has more than 2 decades plus of professional experience and expertise in global shared operations, transformation, quality, project management, change management, client engagement, business strategy, and innovation across a variety of industries like banking, financial services, insurance, IT, consulting, and manufacturing. Sir is currently leading Boston Scientific GBS for APAC region. He has also worked in senior leadership positions in EY, HSBC, Max Life Insurance, Capital One Bank, and Amex, driving complex transformation projects and setting up large-scale operations. He has established multiple shared service centers and led global teams in America, Latin, EMEA, and APAC. Sir is also a member of SSON's Global Advisory Board and is passionate about innovation, analytics, and digital transformation. So welcome to the session, sir. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Saima. This is a great opportunity for me to connect with all of you, and I want to keep it as interactive as possible. While I share my presentation slides, let me know if you all can see my slides.
Not yet. I think it is loading. Share option is there. Yeah, now we can. It's loading, sir.
Can you all see now?
Yes, sir.
Trying to keep it in a PPT mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. As I mentioned, please interrupt me in between, or we can also have the Q&A at the end of the session as well. Because it's a 2-hour session, I think I want to keep it as engaging as possible, especially post-lunch. I know it's very difficult to stay focused, but do interrupt me if you guys have any questions, over the period of this session. So what I want to cover today, because it's focused more on the future skills of the resources we're talking about, the students and others. So what I'm going to cover is I will spend some time on how are the business models are evolving as we speak, because that understanding is prime facie important to understand what these new business models are and how organizations or corporates are changing and how the change is going to look like. And that is another important element to understand. Also, I will share some of the survey results which the World Economic Forum have done in 2020 on the global skills. What are the prominent global skills which the survey talks about? I will also cover in terms of what are these corporates when they come to campus to hire, what are the skills they look for? What is it they look for in terms of hiring the students from campus? The last but not least, I'll have few thoughts about how we should build these skills and how the industry and the university have to integrate. I'm not talking about partnership here. I'm talking about how these two different things have to be integrated. So these are the broad topics I would like to cover today. And starting with, the business models, right? Evolving business models. Um, so if you see the journey of how these business models have been evolved over a period of time, starting with the mass production business models where there is no mediator in between. It's a direct production and the customer comes to the company and buys the products. As it evolved over a period of time, there's a concept of distribution marketing models evolved and emerged, where the production house, the company manufactures and start selling through the distributors in between. And 1990 and 2010, we know that it's the world of internet emerged, the e-commerce, the dot-com companies, the whole information flow started coming up into the existence. And from 2010 onwards, as the internet world and the e-commerce world matured over a period of time, the customer-centered models started coming up. And customer-centered models means people know that what customer needs. And now 2020 and 2025 and beyond, the business models are evolving more of data-driven. Now the companies can predict what as a customers they need. There is a psychometric based AI tools which are coming up. So as we speak, again and again, the whole business models are evolving. And what is causing this change is also changing the way we operate in the organizations. If you look at, while the business evolution is happening, we also know that the industrial revolution, right? And right now we are in the fourth industrial revolution we talk about. But if you look at right from the manufacturing, the first IR versus the mass production, which is the second industrial revolution, and the third is internet technology, the communication, the telecommunications information is all third industrial revolution. And then the fourth revolution is about the robotics, what we are experiencing now, the artificial intelligence, the IoT we call it, which is the Internet of Things and digitalization and automation. So these revolutions, industrial revolutions, are causing more and more changes in the organization, the way we operate. In every industry, you name any industry, currently they are actually undergoing into a lot of transformation. And this transformation is also driving the employee behavior, the customer behaviors, and the stakeholders' behaviors as well. So again, one other data point I want to share today is the business readiness. The business readiness, the business new models are coming as we speak. So starting with, there are organizations which are redefining an existing industry, right? For example, I can share is the Caterpillar industry. Caterpillar company is basically a mining equipment company where the people actually take the big missions into the deep mining, and there are a lot of risk to the human. Now, what Caterpillar is coming with autonomous, autonomous mining missions, where you don't need a human. The human can manage sitting in an AC room, and they can drive the mining activities. Similarly, Shell, it is that it is an oil and gas company, but they are also into financing of big equipment, of oil tankers and other things. So they're redefining the existing industry. Amazon Business, we all know how they redefined an existing industry as we speak. And then there are organizations which are creating a new industry, right? We know about Amazon Web Services. They created altogether a new industry. The GE, the General Electric, they created a great analytic tool called Predix. So there are companies as we speak who are redefining the existing industries. There are companies who are creating new industries, and there are organizations or companies who are capturing entirely different industry. So for example, Google, we know that Google is an internet company. It's a .com company, but Google have capturing other industries too, as we speak. So for example, Google is big time into automobile industry. They are building autonomous cars. They're working with automotive industry. So they're capturing big time the entire automotive industry. They are also, capturing the healthcare industry with building new devices, enhancing the technical capability, and so on and so forth. So if you look at how the whole business world and economy is changing because of various elements of one, as I mentioned earlier, the whole new business models. The second is the Industrial Revolution 4 and the element of how this change is happening across redefining industries, creating industries, and capturing entirely new industries. While we see these industries are changing and evolving, this is also impacting how they see the customers' needs and wants, how they're sensing proactively and not reactively, proactively identifying the customer needs and the business problems and venturing it out. And we see these days a lot of startups coming, trying to solve a lot of customer problems or business problems. And that's where the startup industry is growing as we speak. So I think, I don't know how many people are familiar with this. Is very prominent and becoming more relevant and relevant, how the organizations would look in 2025 and beyond, 14 principles. And this is happening. Some of these, what you see on this slide, is a lot of companies are already executing it, right? They're building more connected workplace, which means connected workplace means workforce, means they're saying work anywhere, anytime, based on your convenience, right? So they're building and investing in technology so that workforce can be sitting anywhere and able to work anytime and deliver the deliverables. So again, the companies are looking at operating like a startups. They're creating small funds where they're giving those funds to the employees and say, okay, you work on this business model and convert that business model into more revenue generating models. So they're looking at operating within the large company. They're encouraging the talent to work on the small business needs and build and drive those revenue models. There is a lot of focus on want versus instead of needs. And now the companies are adapting very fast, changing fast, because you know that earlier the technology, any technology change used to happen at least to take 5 years or 10 years. Now, it is not about 5 years. Every year or every 6 months, the technology is changing. There's something or new things happening. So the companies are focusing on how fast we can adapt to these new changes. Innovation used to be more focused at a head office or a regional office. Now they're encouraging innovation can be anywhere, right? The cloud technology is prominent now. And we see more and more women in the senior management roles. So there is a lot of focus right now on the diversity and inclusion, and which means there's a lot of focus in hiring women employees at a very senior roles based on their skill set and experience, right? We will continue to see more of a flatter structure. I will cover a little more details about this as we speak in the subsequent slides. So again, it is all about democratizing learning. Learning has to be a constant focus for every organization, as the new skills, the upskilling and reskilling is very important to the current workforce in the organization. And focusing on how do you adapt to engage employees and the managers. So again, you see here the globally distributed and smaller teams. So overall, if you look at the future organization, a lot of companies have already implemented these changes, and a lot of companies are following and executing in the path what you see here, how the organizations look 2025 and beyond. While I explained in terms of how these changes, what is these external forces pushing for new business models, which in turn leading to internal changes. And there are 3 predominant areas which is changes happening in the organization. And this is very important for all of you to understand how this change is happening. And I explain why this change is happening in the evolving business models. Now, there are 3 areas which I will talk about. The future of work, we call it in the organization term, the processes. So the current way of future of work, the current way of work and the way of future work is going to be very, very different. We have large workforce. If you talk about the BPOs or the banking industry, you have a lot of transactional processes they do. And these transactional processes are getting automated or getting robotized or eliminated or digitized, which means the current transactional work will be completely transformed. the transactional work will only be managed by exception. So if the large portion of work, what we do currently, if it is getting eliminated and automated, which means the people who are performing the current work have to rethink about their skills, rethink about how they have to manage the work. And once the work is robotized, right, through bots or eliminated, what will be the next course of work for them? So the future of skills, which I'm going to talk now, which is a people, which is a future of workforce, the big change in terms of the future of work. So these are interlinked as we speak. If you look at the future of workforce is also changing, because there are multiple generations currently working, and there is a new workforce is also coming into the corporate world, and we call that Gen Z and the millennials who are coming to the workforce. But the workforce will be more on demand, right? You can hire anytime and let them go anytime. The concepts of gig workforce, I heard this term 10 years back, but this is already in place right now. A lot of companies are utilizing this gig workforce. The bot workforce, there are a lot of companies implementing robotics and the bots. There's a temp workforce, and these different kinds of workforce will be dominant part of the workforce, and which also helps now enables the boundaryless hiring. So there is no more location constraint. You can hire people across the globe because the world is so getting connected. So the workforce, which will be an on-demand, like these concepts which I talked about, if you look at the current organizations, most of the organizations will have at least 70 to 80% of permanent workforce, and then 20 to 30% will be a temp workforce. But that ratio is going to change, because that gives the organization and the people, also the workforce, also a lot of flexibility. And because the transactional work is getting reduced, you may not need a lot of people to process those transactions, right? You see already, if you call a telephone for banking or anything, you already have the chatbots. You can interact and get your work done, right? They've given customers to update the address changes. So a lot of things are getting automated. So you don't need a lot of people to work on these processes. Now, while the future of work, the future of workforce is changing, what is another important element is the workplace is also changing, which means the workplace is getting connected. It's being enabling the collaboration through digital means. People can work from anywhere and anytime. It is driving a lot of virtual connections and conversations. So, whatever situation we are, if you look at the COVID, right? We all experience that we are doing these conferences more virtually. All the employees are working from home, which means it's all digitally enabled. So a lot of companies are, reducing their investment in the real estate space, the office space, and trying to divert those funds to implement in technology and talent. Because two things are very critical for any organization to succeed now is not having a fancy offices, but certainly to have an investment in the technology and the talent pool, right? So the workplace is getting shrinked, and they're saying that, given that COVID situation, when the COVID situation happened last year, we all as an organization got worried. Our BCP plans are not ready. We thought that the work from home is not a possibility before, but post-COVID, we have seen that the highly untested BCP of work from home is a great success. We don't see any productivity loss. We see a lot of comfort for the employees, some of them to work from home, and reduction in the workplace as well. So there is a lot of linkages in terms of how this whole workplace is evolving, the workforce is evolving, and the work is changing. And the reason I want to highlight these elements to you all is it's important to understand how the organizations are transforming themselves into the future way of operating. Because in the subsequent lines, which I'm going to talk about the skills, and the skills are not in just in isolation. The skills are needed to the work has to be done, relevant to what the work needs to be done. So overall, in terms of the future of work, the future of workforce, the future of workplace becomes the whole gambit for any organization to start moving forward in the journey of execution. Now, I'm going to talk about the future of work, but how does this future of work will look like, right? So this is a pictorial view to explain how does this change look like for work. As I mentioned, there is a lot of transactional work, the foundational and transactional work. That is all going to get reduced. And what will the workforce will look like, right? They're going to spend more time on data normalization and governance. So as you see here, 70 to 80% of the transactional work which is performed by large workforce will be automated and transformed. So the future of work will be managed only by exceptions, where and more data and analytical driven. So which means the people who are working on those with those skill set of transactional processing, they need to upskill, they need to reskill themselves to understand what is data, what is analytics, what is cognitive analytics, what is intelligent automation, and the insight delivery. For example, in most of the organizations, we usually have large teams churning out a lot of reports, the MIS. Those roles have gone because it is a real-time dashboards people are getting. They'll get reports on the phones, the mobile, if they need to know the real-time sales data and how the revenue is coming through. So a lot of analytics are in place right now, which means that the normal transactional work, the simple reporting work is all gone and getting automated, which means the current workforce or the new workforce which has to work on these kind of processes needs altogether a different skill set and different understanding of the data, how the systems are connected, how this whole intelligent automation is relevant, and the insight delivery. Right? People are not looking at just a report. There needs insights behind the data, the analysis or analytics behind the data, the predictive analytics, the prescriptive analytics, and these kind of analytics is what people are looking for. So if you look at in this picture, the whole element of the work is completely changing. While the work is changing, now this is how the workforce is changing, right? If you look at a lot of new roles are emerging, like data analysts, data scientists, you hear about innovation specialists, and the process automation specialists are in demand, high demand. The people and cultural specialists, the service specialists. There are new roles at a senior level as well. You heard about, we know that it is about CIO, Chief Information Officer. Now the CIO is one element, but the CIO is also for Chief Innovation Officer. There's a new roles which are coming up at the senior level. There are roles like Chief Digital Officer, which is coming up in industries. And we know that there is a CHRO, we call it, right? Chief Human Resource Officer. But there is a CHO, which is Chief Happy Officer. So there are a lot of companies are creating these new roles, which are very important with the emerging change of work and workforce. And that is what you see in terms of, it is important to understand for the academicians that what is that we have to really train the students for. How should we prepare for this new work which is coming in place? How should they be the part of this new workforce? And the organizations or structures also changing. We call it the pyramid structure right now, right? Where you have large employees at the base and the middle management and the senior management at the top. But this shift is from a pyramid to diamond structure because the transactional workforce is slowly getting eliminated or automated. So the org structures will evolve from a pyramid structure to diamond structure. So which means if you need to be at a mid-level manager right away or at a senior level, you need a different skill set altogether, right? If you look at some of the skills you see here, the highly adaptability, the capacity for reinvention, right? And ability to move at a pace, right? Human-centered and mindsets. There's a lot of things. As an example, you see here in both the managers level and the learning coordinators, and where you have an adaptive workforce. So we call it HumBot. HumBot is human and bot, they work together. So you need to work in this structure of how do you get people working together. So the workforce is getting into different roles, and these roles don't exist now, and a lot of new roles are emerging as we speak. So it's important to understand how the future workforce can aspire to get into these new different roles, and what skill set do they need to get into these kind of skills, kind of roles, right? So the world is going to be very different as we speak, 2025 and beyond. And these are the things which are, as I mentioned, more futuristic, but in real time, as we speak, these are evolving and continue to adapt. Most of the organization, including the organization I work for, the Boston Scientific, as a medical device company, we are also implementing a lot of these, what I'm talking today. Now, I have explained about the future of work, the workforce. Now, how does the future of workplace, or a bit of the readiness in terms of people talent, right? So what you saw here, this slide, is all about some of the new emerging roles. But there are other important elements. It's important for people readiness from a next gen future skills. I call it dynamic skills and digital skills. And these are very important. These are the dynamic skills, which are entrepreneurial skills, the innovation skills, the collaborative and adaptive skills. These are very important. I think these have to be focused more and more for them to succeed in the corporate world. The digital skills are, you can't say that I don't understand IT anymore. If I talk to the finance folks or the HR folks or legal folks in the company, they say that, oh, that is not my functional area. But now we are getting into force where we need to understand the digital part of it. It's important to understand the digital analytics, the digital quotient, the digital learning, and how the digital disruption is happening. So these skills are very important for people, for the students especially, to succeed. They need to understand how these skills they can learn and adapt as they join the corporate world. So these are very important to emphasize, because we can hire or train once the person joins the organization, we can train them on a lot of technical skills. What we are struggling right now is they don't have a collaborative skills. They want to operate in site isolation or siloed approach. They will not be able to adapt to the changes very fast. So I think these are very important with the fast-paced change as an organizations which are going through, and these people readiness is very, very critical for anyone to really continue to succeed in the corporate world. Now, moving on to the workplace, right? So I talked about the work, I talked about the workforce, how it is changing, and the workplace, right? So whether good or bad, because of COVID, the office space is shrinking. Companies don't want to invest in too much of real estate space for office. They're looking at building an office space which is more collaborative driven. How do they expand and connect the workplace? Innovation in the digital work future. And workplace will be built more on the digital collaboration versus the physical collaboration. Pre-COVID, we used to encourage a lot of physical collaboration because people used to come, sit together, brainstorm in the rooms face to face. Now, because the people are spread across the globe and they need to work on some critical projects, so it is important that they need to know how do you digitally collaborate, right? And be more connected and enable innovation, right? We are implementing different work modes. So there are 3 work modes you see. We are categorizing employees into 3 categories. There will be employees who will be on site, which means they come to office all the 5 days in a week. The hybrid model is the employees only come to the office 2 to 3 days in a week. And the remote employees, we categorize them, they're saying that they will only come once or twice a year. So which means the people on the on-site will have a dedicated workstations. The hybrid people have to make reservations of their seats. They will not have any dedicated seats or for the remote people. So which means it's like a hotel, you have to book your seats or a conference room when you want to come to the office. So the whole concept of workplace is drastically changing, which means you need to upskill the students to see that how do they adapt to this new change of workplace. apart from the change in the workforce and the work as we speak. So three things are very important, which are focused for the workplace, is about how we collaborate, how we connect, and how we innovate. And these are three things which are very, very critical and will be very important in terms of getting a good understanding how you're going to work in a corporate world. So these are some of the things. I think before I go into the next section, I will pause here and see if people have any questions or comments to make.
Participants, you can ask your questions.
Hello, sir. This is Dr. Purvi. Just wanted to can you please explain the expand the connect of workforce again?
So expand the connect of workplace means, because right now the world is all virtual, right? So we are doing this conference virtually, and people, for example, multinational companies, some will be sitting in Singapore, someone will be sitting in US, Europe, and India, and various places. So we are looking and investing in those technologies where the people can connect anytime, right? They can catch up anytime, they can discuss on any project anytime. So we are investing and expanding. We are not looking at expanding the physical workspace versus the digital workspace. So that is what I mean by the connected workplace. So it's going to be more virtual and not real.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, you explained about temp force, you explained about robot. Can you explain gig force, which you mentioned in your presentation?
Yeah, so gig workforce, as I say, is called a workforce which is like if you understand how we hire the laborers, right? So I'm just giving you as a labor as an item. So for example, there is a specific skill you need. So which might be like a project management skill or a change management skill. And you think that you don't need for a long time, right? So the people who are like a freelancers, so for a freelancers, the word is also gig workforce. So an alternative word for a freelancer. So they will say that, okay, this is my profile. I work 3 months in a year or 6 months in a year. And this is what my profile. So you can tap onto those workforce, right? Who are either a senior leaders or a specialist in IT or a specialist in human resources or change management. And these freelancers are called gig workforce. And you can hire them from any part of the world. And they will work on an assignment basis. So, which means it will help the organization that I don't need to invest my money for a long term hiring a full-time employee. But my project is only a temporary, which is a 6 months or a year's project. I can always tap on by paying the gig workforce. And it also helps the person who is not really interested in working a full-time job, want to work on specialized projects. And those are the people are called gig workforce.
So can we say, sir, it is informalization? We are going towards the informalization?
Yeah, so the workforce will not work more of a long-term contracts, right? If you look at the millennials, what they're looking for versus the new Gen Z, we call it people who born after 2000. There's a difference, right? For a generation, we call it Generation X, and Generation Y and all. The times are very different. The job is a necessity for those generations. Basic needs is a requirement. But for the new generation, they have all the convenience, they have all the comforts. Now, what they're looking is, I want to just enjoy my life. There is a life which I want to enjoy. I'm not just here to make money, even though I need money, but that's not my priority. The new generation is looking for more of a space of their own personal space. They're not ready to slog the way we used to slog when 20 years before, when I joined the corporate world. So this workforce will be more predominant there. And then how do you attract them into this workplace? So these are the strategies what organizations have to proactively think through. Because the earlier generation, if they retire, these are the new generation which will come to the workforce. And you need to start thinking about how do you manage this workforce who are very young, they're very aspirational, they want to grow very fast, they don't have any patience, unlike a lot of other senior people. They have very limited patience, they have very limited attention, because a lot of distractions are happening these days. If you look at how the whole students are distracted with so much of gadgets and a lot of information flowing in their minds, they have access to a lot of information, but in real times, this information is also distracting them, right? We have people spend, if you just open a WhatsApp or a Facebook, you think that I'll only spend 5 minutes. No, these things are devised such a way that they will take your time and eat your time. That 5 minutes you think you will spend knowingly or unknowingly 30 minutes or an hour. So what is happening is you are getting into a workforce which is more distracted, but less patience, and these kind of things. So these are the people who are looking for more flexibility.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Sir, recently, Tata Sons chairman, Natarajan Chandrasekaran, he referred to something called the third place, which is not work from home, but not office also, somewhere in between. So what is that place likely to be? Means any ideas?
So what they're looking at is, if you look at, right, there are places like co-working spaces, right? So companies don't want to invest. They'll say that, okay, I have a contract with a co-working space. For example, there are a company like WeWork. Have you heard about it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There are many companies like that. So the middle spot is, okay, guys, you don't need to work at home. You may not work at office. We will create small networks of offices, right? Where per seat you pay, for example, 10,000 rupees in INR or 15,000 rupees, where you have all the facilities. So why would organizations spend a lot of time or money into it? It gives in access to the employee to go and log in there. Probably I'm in Delhi now. I have some job to do in Mumbai. I will find a TCS or some other companies, WeWork space, and they'll just go and log in. So that's the middle path, right? So there are a lot of creative ways.
Yeah, and he actually mentioned that they wanted to attract a lot of women workforce. So what is the possibility? Means how do you think to encourage and enlarge the women participation in the workforce?
Yeah, I think these all should start, right from the cultural element, right? If you look at, because I have a lot of global role and I see a difference per country by country. If you look at India, still there is a lot more to push the women employees. And
Right.
Culturally, we don't encourage right from the home, right? I see in our homes as well and the colleagues and friends, where there are a lot of qualified women who are like, they do MTech, BTech, all from good B schools, but they stick to their families. That's their personal choices, right? If I go to China, a lot of service sector is all women. I struggle to hire a male person. So if I have 100 people in China in my team, only 2 people are male.
Right.
Right. So it's different from culture to culture and the place to place. But I think younger generation are more aspirational. The millennials who are coming, the Gen Zs. And I'm hoping that they will continue to come onto the workforce. And we have to enable it. And let them give that flexibility to work and contribute.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just move further in the interest of the time and we can take further questions if that is okay. So what I also wanted to share with you all is the COVID-19, right? This is also one of the reasons which is accelerating the change, right? These concepts of robotics, the bots, gig workforce, the digital connect, the virtual, these all existed, 10, 15 years back. But what is happening is because of the COVID, it is actually accelerating all these changes. And this is a survey, the job survey from 2020 World Economic Forum, they did. And if you look at some of these, right, what is accelerating is the digitalization of workforce, right, which I talked about, using the digital tools, the video conferencing. Believe me, if most of the companies implemented 2 years back, the Microsoft Teams that came in place, the Zoom came in place, right? And a lot of webcasts came in place. If this technology doesn't exist, it has been immensely critical to work, right? So these technologies are now taking a lot of prominence. If you look at, it has provided a lot of opportunity to work remotely. It has accelerated automation of tasks because a lot of people are working from home. We don't have opportunity for a lot of people a dependency, which means we have to really automate the processes. So there's a lot of acceleration happened in the automating the work because people are also struggling. They are over, stretching beyond a point, managing the household work, taking care of the kids, and also taking care of the office. It's a big task, and we are seeing a lot of mental kind of mindful sessions and mental pressure. People are going into depression. So what we have to invest so that will also lessen the burden on the workforce if you're able to automate a lot of tasks. So if you look at the other things like upskilling and reskilling, the whole education, the technology roles, the technology skills are changing. The providers are coming with new things of training and tools. Again, they're looking at accelerating ongoing organizational transformation, right? Looking at the changes which I talked about, from a pyramid structure to a diamond structure. So a lot of things, as I mentioned, the temporary reduction of workforce is happened in some of the companies. They also reduce the workforce permanently, and no specific measures. So there are a lot of things. If you see, this COVID-19 have accelerated the changes what I'm talking about. Earlier, as a company, we never thought that we will be able to segregate our employees on 3 buckets, which I explained: on-site, hybrid, and remote. But now it gave an opportunity that if for more than a year we can work from home without any loss of productivity and able to deliver the projects, that's the best thing for an organization. So we have to see again how from a long-term sustainability, how does this really work? So I thought of sharing some survey statistics on how this acceleration. Also, if you look at the World Economic Forum, also part of the survey, did some of the technologies likely to be adopted by 2025, right? And if you look at the percentages on each of the slide, there are situations which are positive, and there are technologies which are also have been in a negative, which means the relevance is going down. If you look at the cloud computing, and this is a big transformation in the technology, cloud computing is 17%, in terms of adoption. The big data analytics is another area. And out of all, I think I would request the attention if everyone there is an encryption and cybersecurity. This is going to be the game changer, because as the world is becoming digital, virtual, there are lots and lots of frauds, lots and lots of digital and cyber crimes are happening. So these skills have to be these skills will be very, very relevant and critical. Because if a lot of frauds, what you're seeing, the cyber crimes, you need people to continue to strengthen the cybersecurity for any organization, right? Whether it's a banking industry or a medical industry or whatever industry you're talking about. So that skill is again high in terms of increased demand in terms of technology and learning. The artificial intelligence we talk about, the ML and NLPs, which you talk about, the machine learning, right? And all this stuff. You see for example, there are technologies which are like text images and voice processing. They're going down, right? In terms of adoption. People are investing on robotics learnings, the HumBot, which I talked about, the industrial automation, the drones. So these are the things which are coming up very new. And that's where a lot of people are spending time in learning this, the augmented and virtual reality, right? And the 3D and 4D printers, so that's again 10% there. And there are other skills which are also going down. For example, the new materials, the graphenes and all the stuff, they are reducing by 12% in terms of learning. Biotechnology still have some importance and relevance there with 8%, and robots. So if you look at the overall, from a technology point of view, how the people are saying that these are some of the things which will be very relevant for organizations to spend time and invest in upskilling and reskilling, or hire the talent from external if you don't have an internal talent. And these will be game changers. These skill set people have will be the game changers for a lot of them who can really transform the way the organization want to work. Yeah, so this is one of the critical information I thought might be useful for all of you to look into. The other information, I think this is very, I looked at, if you look at the top 20 roles which are increasing or decreasing across industries. This is nothing to do with any specific industries. If you want to know, unless you understand the jobs which are increasing demand, then only you'll be able to learn the relevant skills to get those jobs. So as I mentioned, these are interlinked. They are not in isolation. So the top 20 jobs, if you see, which are increasing in demand, right? So the whole data analytics and data scientists, which is different from the data entry clerks, right? We used to have a lot of large workforce. We used to hire in a decade before the data entry clerks and a lot of administrative and executive secretaries. Those all are, getting, out of the context. And these are more decreasing in the demand. So if you look at the increasing demand, the data analysts, scientists, the AI and machine learning specialists, the big data specialists, the digital marketing and the strategy specialists, people think that social media is digital marketing, and I don't think that's the right understanding. Digital marketing is very different from the social media marketing. So, and these are different roles. We are hiring, looking at the process automation specialist, the business development specialist, or digital transformation specialist. These are very, very in demand, and this is increasing. The project managers, the Internet of Things specialists. So if you look at robotic engineers, this is a very different roles which are coming up. How do you manage these robots which you are deploying, right? Fintech engineers is again an entire new role. If you look at a lot of fintech startups which are coming, financial based technology firms who are actually giving a tough competition with the banking industry, the existing banking industry. So which means these are upcoming roles which are increasing with a lot of startups, a lot of different industries revisiting and recreating and in industries where you're looking at a lot of different skill set, right? So, and in the similar way, some of the things what you see here are in very decreasing demand, with the data entry clerks, the administrative jobs which are in abundance, right? The assembly and factory workers. Now, if you look at, I don't know how many people have the exposure to go into an automobile industry and see, when earlier in the automobile industry, when they used to manufacture the whole assembly line and have to do the paint, right? Humans used to do the paint, but it's more than a decade now, it's all automated. The bots does the paint and assembly in the automobile industry, because these paints, people used to work in the workforce, used to be sick, with the chronic diseases like tumor and cancer. So that became also an impediment. So which means the automobile industry and most of the processing industries is all automated. Only a technician or a supervisor will watch, sitting in a cabin, and watch how the machinery and how the equipment is working. So a lot of things are reducing the demand. So which means you don't need large workforce or a factory workers who needs to work in those factories, in the processing industries. So those roles are coming down, right? Again, roles like customer service, right? So we hear now customer service work is all replaced by the chatbots, as you see. And in most of the banking or engineering industry, they're giving the customers to update whatever the records are and submit the proof, right? So you don't need many of the customer service. And one important element is people are now focusing from customer service to customer value. So I think that is very important. And that is a big paradigm shift in terms of how you think about shifting from a customer service to customer value. How do you provide value? So I don't need a customer service. So that's a transactional work, as I mentioned earlier, right? Again, a general operations manager, we don't need much of those general operations manager because most of the stuff is automated. So similarly, if you look at the record keeping and stock keeping, that is all automated. We have fantastic tools in SAP and Oracle and other great tools. It is all tracked manually. Again, you see in each of those, I think these are day in and day out, the construction labor, right? So we are deploying large machinery now. You don't need a lot of laborers to do the hard work there. So decreasing demand. So what, as a part of the survey, what it is coming through globally is these are around 20 increasing in demand roles. There are another 20 which is also decreasing in demand roles. So it's important for people to understand what are these roles and how do I learn the relevant skills, right, to get these kind of jobs as they enter into the in the future organization. It is also relevant for a lot of existing workforce because existing workforce have been working in age-old technologies and age-old systems, but they also need to upskill themselves if they want to change from being a data clerk or a data entry or an executive for 10, 15 years in the same role. And if they need to be relevant beyond a period of time, it's important for them to understand these data analytics and get trained, get upskilled on these kind of skill set. Now, moving on, I think this is an important element which I thought will be relevant for all of you to understand. There are top 15 skills. So earlier slide which I talked about is about the job, and job is different from the job skills which you require. So if you look at the top 15 skills which will be relevant 2025 and beyond are these 15 skills. If you look at the analytical thinking and innovation, this is a very, very important, and the skill set will be valued, timelessly. Active learning and learning strategies. You need to know, it is not like that I've got my graduation or post-graduation or a PhD, my education is done. It is not the case with the current way of working. You have to be a continuous learner. You need to upgrade what is happening in the new things. And as I mentioned earlier, in the previous times, any new technology if it used to come like 5 years or 4 years or 3 years. Now it is every 6 months, 1 year, we see something is coming and disrupting the existing technology, which is also creating a lot of disruption to the existing businesses. Earlier, the large companies used to be fearful of getting disrupted by another big company. But if you see, that is not the case. The large companies are disrupted by very small startups. They can come and just take away your own business strategy in just 5 years or a year. So the large giants are now thinking that we have to really invest in our R&D. We have to be very proactive for the change. And there are numerous examples people talk always, like Nokia or Kodak, films and all. And these are classic examples. And there are many companies which are in that zone where they have not invested in learning and building these teams to come out with new strategies. If the people are not learning and if they are not equipped, they can never come with new strategies. So it is not the end of the world of having a qualification in the corporate world. So you have to be a continuous learner. It has to be a complex problem solving because the world is becoming complex day in, day out. If I talk to a lot of senior leaders and we have a lot of roundtable conversations, how do we deal with the COVID situation? This is a situation or experience no one had in the previous, 30 years or 40 years of experience we have. This is a unique challenge we have. This is a complex problem. How do we ensure that our manufacturing plants run in this COVID situation? How do we ensure that the supply chain runs? How do we ensure that our people work? So this is a complex environment, complex world we are living right now. And that throws us challenging. So if you don't have people with the skill set of critical thinking and analysis and complex problem solving, you don't succeed, right? So if you don't succeed, the organization will not succeed. So these skills are very, very important. How the skill of creativity and originality and initiative, taking the leadership and social influence, because a lot of companies are also coming up, the new companies are coming up, trying to solve the social cause. may not be for a business or to make money. A lot of social costs, especially when a social cause needs a lot of transformation and influence. So how do you have this, acquire the skills which are you can influence as a leader, or without a designation, the social causes. So the technology use, the monitoring and control, the whole technology design and programming. And one of the important element I think I would really stress is the resilience, right? You hear this term resilience so much these days with the COVID coming in, is because that is what is becoming essential for everyone. Whether you're a corporate, whether you're individual, right? Whether you are a small scale company or a medium scale company or a small shop owner, merchant, you need to build the resilience, which you have to face in the tough times. The stress tolerance is very limited. The flexibility is very limited. So these skills are very, very important for anyone to really succeed in their own careers or the business. So these skills may not be just for you to work in a corporate world, but if you want to run your own startups or if you want to run your own business, these skills that are very prominent, right? Again, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation, I talked about. Emotional intelligence, if you need to know how you have to work with the people of different cultures across the globe, because the world is going to be connected. So you need to understand those cultures and how the people react, what is their working style, and how do you be empathetic to the situations people going through. These are very, very critical elements. Not just having a technical skills, you will not succeed. Technical skills, you might be okay doing well, but if you have these skills which are soft skills, which are human skills in a way, you will be really fit for the purpose of any organization, like service orientation, again, the persuasion, negotiation skills. These are very, very unique skills which will stay relevant timelessly, because the technology skills or the technical skills keep on changing, and you have to continue to upgrade yourself or reskill yourself. But certainly, if you look at these skills which the World Economic Forum have come out with, are really, really relevant and critical as well for anyone. Now, the other important element I thought that will be good for all of you to know, as especially a lot of jobs on artificial intelligence and data are coming up, right? So there are different, if you look at on the table A, the opportunities within the professional cluster which you see, there are areas or jobs which are mass, and there are also niche areas like big data developers. That's a very niche area. Like artificial intelligence and specialists, we are getting more and more people getting trained there. There again, insights analysts, which you call it, the very niche area there. The data consultants are again niche area, because the data consultants is very niche areas because large of corporates have huge data and they have multiple systems, and they don't have any data lake or a data platforms for them. So it gives a good idea in terms of how these areas within the same job cluster it is looking like. And if you map some of these skills which we have seen, if you look at the way you have to read this table B, is the skill gap of workers transitioning into this job cluster. If you look at a 0 to 1 number gap, right? If it is a 1, which means there is no skill gap, there's abundant of people available in the skill. If you look at data science, it's only 0.19, which is very, very low there. And if you look at artificial intelligence, again, it's only 0.10, right? So again, scientific computing, that's also low. So if you look at some of these, again, neuro language processing, again, that's very low in the number. So this will give us a perspective for us to say, guys, I mean, these are the areas which are opportunities to bridge the skill, the future skills. And this will be more relevant, like a cloud computing. It's only 0.27. Still, there is a lot of gap in terms of the workers who have to learn, the workforce who have to learn the skill set. So these are very critical in terms of how we look at some of these important elements in terms of how this whole data and the skill sets and the opportunities are looking like. So I think this is another slide which I thought is very important. So if you look at this slide, I wanted to bring everyone's attention because the skills to be taught in the universities, because these are the skills. If you look at the functional area, let me start with the business. If you look at the current focus of people who are in finance roles, the accounting roles, the financial analytics, accounting and tax, these are very critical. Accounting is not just passing or transactional entries. That is all taken care of. It's all automated. We need finance people who understand the strength of the balance sheet, the strength of the P&L, how do you fund the organization, the whole treasury and the tax. These are very critical areas for a finance people, right? It is not just passing a debit entry or a credit entry and the journal entries. That is all automated, right? So the new skill set, if you're looking at an MBA in finance or whatever in accounting, the skill set is very different. People are looking for the whole, communications and advertisement, accounting and finance. I talked about, right? Risk management for finance is so critical because with so much of digitization, there is always opportunity to, which I talked about, the cyber security and crimes. So the risk management is very important. For the HR folks who are doing the human resources, it is not just the talent hiring, right? It's not just hiring. It is also about the talent engagement. It becomes more critical and critical. How do you keep your employee trainings, upskilling and reskilling? So the HR teams, a lot of work is automated. If I can talk about my company here, the HR, when we roll out offers, in the previous times, we used to roll out offers manually. Now all our offer letters are done by a bot, right? It is all programmed. So anyone whom want to hire, the bot processes the letter, it sends to the email of the person whom we are hiring. So there is very little work for our HR folks. So a lot of work, the whole payroll is automated in the organization, right? And the entire the hiring and process is automated. The rolling out offer letters is automated. So a lot of things are automated, which means the HR teams, the people who are in the HR field or pursuing the HR courses, have to really start learning different things. Not just the academic way of learning of transformation, organizational development. Those things are may not be relevant. There's a lot of things which have changed within the organizational development and the change management. So I think those are the things which people in the HR function to really focus on. Marketing, as I mentioned, the digital marketing is completely new skill. So how do you take help of social media? How do you and enhance your digital marketing? The R&D is again focusing on different things, the innovation and the user experience. The sales strategies are building very different and very creative. The strategy have to be focused irrespective of the function you are, right? The operation, supply chain is one area I can tell you lots and lots of transformation happening. With the new tools and technologies coming, a lot of competition and different countries also putting a lot of different strategies to enhance their supply chain, right? We all remember that when COVID happened, a lot of imports come from China across the world. And a lot of companies thought that, oh, we'll ban China and we have to make in India and other products. But supply chain is so critical for all of these. So there is a lot of new strategies, new planning, the procurement. These all are skills which I think not an academic conversation for the students. Some practical things needs to be happen. The other big area which is transforming all this is the data science, which I talked about. The maths and statistics, the basics and fundamentals of that. The data analysis, the data management, the data science, which I'm looking here, the whole artificial intelligence. If you don't understand the maths and statistics enough or the data science, you can't be a great or good artificial intelligence guy. The NLP, right? And then machine learning softwares, the deep learning softwares. There are a lot of things which are coming and getting enhanced again and again, right? And on top of this, there's a lot of focus on the leadership and management. What we're also struggling to see is we find people with great technical skills, they deliver excellently, but they don't have good competence to scale further. And these leadership skills are very important to look at how do you strategize to develop the organization, the business strategies, the culture, how do you build a culture of engaging, a culture of inclusiveness, culture of equity, culture of diversity. And these are things which have to be start engaging the students, not when they join the corporate world. So in a lot of people who started working 20 years back, 30 years back, these D&I are the terms when they join the organization, they'll get to hear. But now I think it's important, and someone asked a very important question about women employees. These all things have to start right from homes and universities and colleges and schools. The diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? There's a lot of new laws are coming for LGBT kind community. So a lot of things are evolving, but these all have to be taught right from before they enter the corporate world. So when they enter the corporate world, they don't feel that they're out of place, right? They all understand right from the beginning. So I think the culture of that is important, the people management and some of the psychological stuff and the planning, right? And other important things, human skills. Communication is non-negotiable. I mean, you have to be able to communicate very clearly and crisp. The critical thinking, creativity, collaboration. So these are influential skills. I did mention some of these as part of the dynamic skills and the digital skills. So these are the kind of dynamic skills to me, the learning, the resilience. And these are very important in terms of how, as a people, as students, we have to encourage them, and ourselves also have to spend time in understanding these technologies. Again, I'm just reinforcing and emphasizing that gone are the days people think that, oh, I'm a lawyer, I don't understand technology. I don't need to understand technology. I'm a finance guy, I don't need to understand technology. Or I'm a HR guy, I don't understand the technology. Those days are gone. We have to invest in understanding these new technologies. That's when you will be able to head of the game, stay ahead of the game. So some of these technologies to look at, and there are a lot of companies who are offering these courses, and they're tying up with big universities. For example, there is a company called Coursera. I'm sure you might have heard about that. Coursera, have you heard about this online training company?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
There are many companies like that, right? So these are the companies who are actually tying up with big universities in US and Europe, international universities and top-notch universities, and they're delivering these courses. So these are the future skills we're talking about, right? All that I mentioned in the previous slides is about, these are important, these are happening as we speak. Don't think that, oh, these are yet to happen. That's not true. These are happening as we speak. And the people who are able to jump bandwagon and upskill themselves, they will be relevant in the industry. And I've seen people, and we hear a lot of people saying that, oh, I lost a job. They are not lost a job, not because they don't have a role or something. They never equip themselves for futuristic roles, right? They've been doing the same role for so much time, so many years, and they were very complacent with it. So people who become very complacent with what they know, and they don't take risks and don't focus on upskilling and reskilling themselves, they will become irrelevant to the corporate world, right? So it's a competitive world, and it is also very demanding and competitive. So it's important to stay ahead of the game. We have to know what is first happening in the organization, in the organizations and the industries, various industries. We need to what's coming our way, which is important, and then plan ourselves and see that our teams and the future students in the universities get equipped with this, so that when we go for kind of hiring, it's easy for us, and they also know what they're going to work on. So these are some of the important skills from a business point of view, from a leadership and management point of view, from a human skills point of view, and the data science and technology. And if you look at whatever way, whether it is a kind of World Economic Forum or many surveys, what we do internally as well and externally, most of the people say that these are the skills which will stay for a longer time. And the old skills, as I shown in the other slide, the increased demand and the decreased demand is also because happening, as I mentioned earlier, the work is changing, the workforce is changing, and the workplace is changing. And these three things collectively is driving all this change. So I really want you to understand how relevant as a universities or a faculty, you all also have to spend time to understand before you start teaching these kids and students. So I think these are very important. I'll pause here. I think I have a couple more slides and see if you guys have any questions or comments to make. Anyone? Okay, I'll continue then and I'll see. Yeah, go ahead if you're asking a question or a comment.
So when we want to talk about all these emerging technologies, so there is one drawback and limitation among the faculties. So as the faculty need to learn all these technologies, so over a period of time, but the time another new technology arrives. When we try to learn a new technology, by the time we complete it, another new technology arrives. So that's a problem for the faculty point of view.
I would say it is not only a problem for the faculty, it's also a problem for the people working, right? For example, I'll give a classic example. People, you might have heard about SAP. There is an industry of whole SAP. People worked on the SAP jobs, master data, and a lot of roles, right? Now there is SAP has launched a new technology called S4HANA. It's a cloud-based technology. A lot of people don't know about it. They've been working in TCS and Infosys and Wipro and a lot of these IT companies working in this old version. Now people have to learn this new S4HANA, and we as a company, we're implementing it, right? So it's a constant journey for the people working also in that division or a function in the technology to upskill themselves. So it's a challenge for both the faculty as well as people in the corporate world too. And that's the reason I mentioned earlier as well that gone are the days where I earned my certificate and I can keep doing my job. That's not the case anymore. People are coming much smarter, technically very smart. The millennials are very fast in terms of learning technology versus people who come with a lot of experience. They're quick in learning, they understand the technology very fast because that's how they've grown up. They're now new kids are growing up on the phones and tabs, which was not the case for the people in a different generation. So it's important for us and everyone to the fact, irrespective of where you are in your life, if you have to be relevant and if you want to work for long, you have to upskill. There is no choice there, unfortunately.
Sir, it's a very practical question to you. I'm Satya Misra. Yes. So how much of skills you are really looking forward to from the B schools, and how much skills you really as an industry or as a corporate, you would like to impart yourself the way you want?
Brilliant question. I will just I will answer that in my next slide if you give me some time.
Okay. Okay.
So this is where I think you're asked and help me look at answering through this slide your question. So what corporates are hiring from campus, right? And I define it as a leap.
Okay.
Leap is about the learning ability. So we look at, can this person have a learning ability, because that is very critical. Because if you look at the B school, we're not expecting them to know everything, right? So we know that they're students, they'll not have a lot of practical experience. But what we look for is, in the leap, the L is learning. Can we train them, right? The second important element is whether this person will be engaged, or are they engaging, right? Or they are in their own world, right? That is a very important quality, we look at as part of the other important, adaptable, because the change is so fast for everyone. Can they adapt to the changes in the organization, right? And the last but not least is the passionate. The P is passionate. So if we look at holistically in these skills, if you look at the previous slide, which I talked about, right? So which is like the business, leadership, and human skills. this is where we are looking at the data science and the technology we can train. We can invest in upskilling them. But what we face in the current world is we in these 4 elements, we see some of the lacking someone's in obviously no one will be perfect in everything, but at least the critical element of learning is there. It is very important. And I keep telling in many forums, the people that for the important element for learning is we have to keep our eyes and mind open. If our eyes and mind are not open, then learning will never have, which means eyes are useless if our mind is closed. So what we have to inculcate in the students is, guys, keep your eyes and mind open. You might be seeing, but it's not registering in your mind. And that's what I keep telling, that your eyes are useless if your mind is closed. So one of the bigger elements for learning is, this is an important thing to understand. People might see, but they not register in their minds. And these are things will keep building from one on other. So I coined the term leap is very important. And I usually tell people that these are the 4 things if you have in life, anything you can learn, and you can also unlearn. You have to know how to unlearn things what you learned as well in the past. And this is a continuous journey, right? So, and I also keep telling people that life is a continuous journey, continuous learning. Life is all about continuous learning, and we have to keep learning continuous. That's only way if you want to really succeed in life and be a successful professional career. That's the only principle you're going to have to follow. Because I keep repeating in various forums that, and to my teams, that keep learning continuous, because life is all about learning. There's nothing more. Success and failure will come and go. Our emotions of feeling happy and sad come and go. But what we can make really, and these are the things we need to make people emotionally strong. The mental strength is very limited. I see people that if they fail, they think that that's the end of the life. And we see more and more kind of suicidal things happening in this current generation versus the past generation. We are not building enough mental strength. In corporates, we are spending money by paying consultants to do yoga sessions. We are doing sessions, mindfulness sessions. Why should company invest so much of them? Because that's the well-being of the employees, right? So technical skills anyone can learn. And believe me, anyone can replace you by a technical skill. But what people can't replace anyone in the organization is when you are passionate, when you are adaptable, when you're an engaging guy, and you have the learning ability. No one can replace you. You'll never lose a job. You will find always better ways to do things. So these are important skill set, what we have to encourage in students, that mindset change of being flexible, explaining them the failure is part of their life, right? There will be more learning you can do when you fail. And we say that fail fast so that you succeed in the future, right? Gone are the days where we used to reprimand people if they make a mistake or fail. Now we are saying that, okay, you experiment, you fail so that you learn. Because when we fail, we'll learn a lot. But when you succeed, the confidence will build. But either ways, we're not going to lose anything. So what is important for anyone is follow the leap principle. And that will really help and take a lot of success in life. Right? No one will guarantee success. There are a lot of people who are hardworking, but are you also smart working? When you interview a lot of people, people say, what are the qualities you have? The first thing they say is, I'm very hardworking. I'm dedicated. No one is interested in that. People are saying, are you a smart worker? Because if you're a smart worker, you will be innovative, right? You don't waste the resources of the company. So the way you look through the lens is changing. Right? We can purely hire a person who fits in this leap and we can train them. Any technicality, because the person has the learning ability. The person has the passionate to learn. The person is adaptable and engaged. So what can't be trained? And this doesn't matter with the age. Doesn't matter with the age. Whatever profession you are in a teaching profession, whether you're in a corporate profession or in your business, or you're a student, these applies to everyone. And that's what, as a mature individuals, we have to coach people. If you just glance through the the LinkedIn profiles, right? More and more you're seeing the ICC coaches. People are getting certified because a lot of demand is getting created. The coaching has become a big business because people need help, because they don't know beyond a point where to go. Right? That's where the world is coming up and new business areas are coming and people are making money into it. Right? The yoga is becoming big and big because people are now with pandemic focusing on health. The biggest investment everyone is making is on health now. Right? Not on fancy holidays and all. So the times are changing. And if we don't adapt to those changing times, if we don't prepare ourselves to the adapting change, we will be lost in that. So what is important, and today I'm trying to emphasize is to all of you, is a lot of things are changing, which I talked about, how organizations are changing. And I'm giving examples of how my company I work for is changing, and how as a leader of this company, I'm driving a lot of change and transformation, and how we are trying to drive innovation, making people connected, collaborative, and innovative, right? So I think these are important things. I hope I answer your question in this slide.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir.
Thank you. So last but not least slide, I think this is one slide. I think it's not like, how should we drive this change? And if you look at the element of industry and university, I'm using the term industry and university as kind of an integration. I'm not talking about a partnership. If I compare with my global exposure of traveling a lot of countries and working and engaging in different universities. If I look at India, I see a big gap of the collaboration of industry and university education. When I went to Germany for one of the courses I did, the integration, I'm not talking about partnership, in the way it is integrated, the whole ecosystem, I call it ecosystem, the student, the professors, and the industry bodies, the way they integrate in Germany and Europe is phenomenal. They work as almost as one part of the organization. They give employees in the organization to spend time with the students, and they give time for students to come back and work on some of the business problems. So the three areas which I want to talk about today on that, right? One, I think we have an internship, right? If I see internship, most of the time, a lot of requests I get to receive saying that we need a 2 months internship, I need a 1 month internship. That is not really what they learn, right? They'll hear a lot of theoretical, academic, and this 1 month, 2 months is not going to help. I think we should revisit that, because more and more practical examples and practical hands-on will help them really do better when they enter the corporate world. So what is important is to look at the tenure at least of 4 to 6 months. And we need to revisit the whole curriculum and do it. And there is good collaboration we need to find. I know a lot of companies are not ready. There's a lot of mindset and change management required, either through government policies or bringing in some universities' influence. And not every corporate is ready to partner. So I think this integration is very important. This ecosystem integration is very important for a long-term sustenance for any industry. Similarly, the innovation, the corporate should engage the students as part of the innovation program, problem solving skills. That is when the actual real learning happens, whether through the 6 months or 4 months, a year. And when I went to these universities in Germany, I saw that the students know a lot more about an automobile industry than the person who is working there. They know a lot more about, when I visited some of these universities, the students of the universities actually have taken some of our leaders to explain how a BMW operates, that whole factory operates. If I ask anyone, a student here in India, I don't think they'll have that much of knowledge. That is amazing. But this is a great transformation we need to work through and work for. If I talk to some of the professors in Germany and other areas, they have a lot of great business projects and government projects they're working. How many professors or faculty members have an opportunity in India to work on those, except very senior people? So the third element which I talked about was the inclusion. And that inclusion is big miss in India right now. The academic excellence versus the personal excellence. We don't balance it well. We only always try to hire people who are academic excellence. But when they come to corporate world, they don't have the interpersonal skills. They don't have the personal excellence to succeed. We always give weightage to topper marks, academic ranks. But if I see these brilliant guys, when they come to the corporate world, they struggle. Because when you enter the corporate world, all that matters is only performance. We don't look at how many marks you got, or you're a topper or not. Are you able to perform? Are you able to deliver results? Period. It's as simple as that. But how do you balance all these? And that is very important. And these are the things, I think there's a lot of collective efforts, not just understanding what skills, future skills are coming our way, but I see that there's a big ecosystem missing in India. And as a leader, I get a lot of opportunity to talk in various forums, international forums, and within the local forums and the regional forums. As a regional leader, I talk. But I see how the education system have to evolve, how the corporates also have to partner and integrate the universities as part of this. So I think this is how we should look at in terms of how relook at the internships, what we have, the engagement of corporates of bringing in more students and giving them kind of a startup opportunities to build something new and engage them as part of their education. And then the inclusiveness, I think that is the one big area across. We talk about in various forums of diversity and equity. I feel still that is only a talking. I think a lot more we should do in more executable terms, and that inclusions becomes so critical for any success of any economy or a country. I think this is the last slide. I think, again, as I mentioned, that will be a kind of be prepared to work with the new colleague. So you need to learn to work with other skills which are also prominent. I think which I want to emphasize now is, which I can recollect, is the virtual management skills. Gone are the days where you used to manage teams or people sitting face to face. Now you need to know how to manage workforce virtually, sitting everywhere, anywhere in the world, you should be able to manage a workforce. So there will be workforce which is a bot and human. So how do you manage both of them? How do you ensure that you enable people to work together, right? How do you define those roles very clearly between the human role versus a bot role? These are very, very niche skills. I don't see, if I look for anyone to, if I hire, I don't see these skills existing right now. But more and more, these skills will be very, very relevant and prominent, right? So one element is trying to understand what are the future skills, future jobs, but other critical element, which is more important, is how do you make it happen? And as explained in the other slides, how do you relook into your own curriculum? How do you ensure that the faculty is equipped of what is happening in the world and the industry? How do you ensure that students are focused on these and they are not get distracted? And especially in the virtual way of teaching, it is very difficult. In the real teaching, as you know, the professor can control the class. In the virtual class, the student will control the teacher in terms of the way they're muting or unmuting and making noise. You all experience very well. And I see my daughters, how difficult the teacher, I really pity the teachers now in the virtual classes, right? It's very difficult to bring them to attention. You don't know this, they don't even switch on the camera. You don't know they're listening. They even exist. You're only talking to the black box and you're thinking that you're teaching phenomenally, right? So there is a danger we are also emphasizing, but I think we need to weigh creative ways. Is that every faculty member equipped or everyone to talk on a virtual platforms and still keep the people engaged? Not there yet. There are classes which I see where professors pre-record the sessions. When you pre-record the sessions and share with the students have all the luxury to control when to listen, what to listen, where to pause, where to look at, and at their comfort. So what I'm saying is the transformation is not only happening in other manufacturing industries or other industries, but this whole education system is also transforming. And this is a time everyone have to proactively respond to this, not to react to this. So we need to understand how to respond to the situations. And that's where it tests our ability to creatively think and come out with brilliant solutions. And that's when you're able to make a meaningful contribution to the roles, whatever we are playing, whether I'm a professor, whether I'm a leader, whether I'm just a manager or a technical guy. But these things are what are very relevant. So I think with that, I really want to emphasize that, be prepared. The new generation of working with bots and human. There's a skill of virtual leadership is very, very prominent, apart from the other skills I talked about. And remember, there's a word of leap. And I will just pause here. And this is what I thought I will cover in 1.5 hours and give it 30 minutes to keep it more interactive, and happy to answer any questions. And if I don't have an answers to everything, promise I'll get back to those answers for you. But I hope it is useful, and thank you for the opportunity, and open for questions and answers. I'll happy to answer any question or comments from anyone.
Participants, you can ask your questions.
Sir, good afternoon. I have a question for you. So I have few of my students who have, after their MBA, they have joined academics in teaching. And now they feel they want to join the corporate because they feel the benefits are more or better. So after, like, say, a period of 5 to 10 years, is it possible for them to join the corporate company or join the corporate world?
They can, provided in terms of how they sell their skills, right? Because if you're in teaching profession, corporate, you also have roles like L&D, learning and development.
Yes.
Right? There are a lot of other opportunities within the HR fraternity. So it all depends on, as I mentioned, how do you upskill yourself to be relevant if you want to go back to the corporate. I have seen a lot of people who are in corporate want to come back to the universities as professors. And these things happen. It all depends on how you sell your skills, how content are you to deliver on those roles. I think that's
thank
possible.
you, sir.
With so many people, I was expecting more questions, guys. Unless I made it very clear and it's all clear for you and you understood well, I hope so.
Participants, you can put your question on the chat or ask yourself.
Sir, with your permission, can I ask one more question? Because I am already, I have exhausted my quota, but still, with the emergence of a lot of law universities and law schools, we have seen a lot of students now joining the 5-year integrated law programs. So what is the future of law according to you? And where do you see lawyers, let's say 5 years or 10 years down the line?
I think the lawyer profession will be still evergreen, I would say. The reason I say that is with the complexity of new laws,
Right.
the cyber crimes, the cyber laws, and other areas, right? There's a lot of opportunities there. There are a lot of international laws which are changing. I think they will have a good thing. I think only thing they need to be very careful is what is the area they're going to choose, because there are lawyers, that we'll find them outside the courts, just sitting and doing a documentation. There is also an advocate, but there is very senior lawyers, that they mint money for just one piece of advice. So in every profession, there will be like people who are doing extreme great work, and they're also doing people who are just kind of a documentation work, right? The low end of that work. I think it's whatever profession people choose, they need to excel in it. And the only way they want to excel in that space is start thinking about what is a boundary. People make boundaries among them saying that this is what I have to operate in this profession. That is not the case now, right? And legal professional lawyers are high demand, as I mentioned, but they need to pick the niche areas because the legal is so much, the laws are so vast, and so many things are changing in that. So it all depends on how they pick the niche areas and enrich their skills in that. If you're looking at just do a contracting management, I will only draft contracts, that is all automated, that work, and also look for a legal opinion that is getting automated, right? So I think it's important for them to look at what are the niche areas, what are the emerging areas. For example, a lot of people ask, right? I'll give an example. You all heard about the autonomous cars?
Self-driven.
Self-driven, no, not self-driven. It is like you don't have a driver, right? So those are autonomous cars. You don't have a man or woman driving that. So it's a program. You put a destination, it takes you to one place, other place. Now people are asking, if that car makes an accident and kills someone,
Who would be liable?
who will be liable? So there are still laws which are not clearly defined. In the same way, people are asking, okay, if a human makes an error in a corporate, you will reprimand them, you give a warning letter and all this stuff. If a bot makes a mistake, what do you do? Who are going to uphold? So from a legal point of view, I see that next 10, 15 years, they will be having potential. But it depends on what they choose in terms of niche areas.
Absolutely. Good. Very satisfied with the answer, sir.
Thank you. So who else is going next? I was thinking the professors will ask more questions than the students.
Sir, I have a question. Then when you talked about automation, the automatic car, now how safe will be then the workplace will be if you are going to work with the robot? Because I saw a film in which the robot was killing the person because there was a malfunction in the chip. So the information what he got was not correct and he was killing. So now my question is, how safe it's going to be then?
So when I refer to bots, there are two kind of bots. So one is a physical bot and there is a software bots. So in most of the service industry, if I refer, these bots are all software bots. So people get confused on this. So one thing I want to clarify that. Second, the bots what you're talking about are more of machines who manages the machines in factories. Obviously, I think, as I mentioned, there are no laws to it, but then people have to be watchful of how those programming, and that's what a lot of testing is happening before they put onto the job these days. So there are two different kind of bots. One is the software bots, which I refer to, which is more in the service industry, and the kind of a physical bot who will do the kind of physical work in most of the factories. So I think there is, as I mentioned, there's still kind of risk, and those have to be tested for all kinds of environment before they're deployed in the workplace. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, yes, sir.
Anyone else?
We really need people like you who have spent very good time in the corporates, and then who is willing to come back and discuss these things with academicians. At least we can take it back to the students. So we really need this kind of openness from the industry, because I belong to a law university, and we get a lot of lawyers coming back to the campus also, and interacting with students also. But the openness of the industry, you also pointed out, that's not very encouraging. And I think what can be done to get that openness?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's kind of $1 million question, right? So everyone, including myself, sometimes I feel that we identify gaps, but unfortunately we don't have time to fix it. Neither you might have the interest to do it, but you don't have time. But I think somewhere these things have to be worked out in collaboration. We need to engage different industries. There are a lot of industry bodies like CII, NASCOM. We have good industry bodies,
Yes.
But someone have to take a lead and say that, okay, from university representation, talking and taking to these bodies, industry bodies. And these industry bodies can, if required, can engage the government to bring some policies. And recently, we all know that the entire education has been redesigned, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, I keep hearing in terms of how the structure has changed.
Yes.
Probably those changes should enable some part of it. And again, in India, right, we have brilliant policies, and unfortunately, the implementation of policies or these things we suffer. It's not like lack of policies or lack of infrastructure. In India, the biggest challenge is how do you execute them? How do you make it more relevant and implement in a better way? So that's again other area we see. At least we have to showcase more examples where an industry or a company collaborating with an university and investing in it. That can be a classic example or a story to share with other companies and universities. So I think this is important.
We see a lot of consultancies received by IIM Ahmedabad and all, because they are very nearby to us. We know they get a lot of consultancies. Their faculties are also on the board of various managements. But there are a lot of these schools with very good potential who can also deliver a lot of consultancy projects. It may be small, it may not be very large, but we don't see that coming. The teachers do a lot of research. They're very good at research, at least. So some research assignments, consultancies can be given back to them.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that, because that's what I said in one of the slides, the inclusiveness, yes. Right? As long as a humans we run behind brands, right? This mindset will stay. Believe me, I mean, people are ready to spend money for these brands. Because unfortunately we are getting in a situation where because one advantage I have is I have a global experience, not in India. I manage teams globally. I traveled across the world, and I worked in different industries. I worked in banking, I worked in consulting, right? I worked in IT, I worked now in a medical device. So the kind of experience I bring, and I see the world very differently. And I keep telling people that if you look at the consultant versus a person who is trying to sell a product, right, which is physically available. For example, you're a manufacturing of this glass, right, of this glass, and you can't sell this glass for not even 10 rupees. Whereas a consultant can sell you for ₹1,00,000 rupees, nothing in his hand. Because what happens in the style of operation is a consultant sell either a greed or a fear. So he takes all your data, presents in a nice format, and sells you either greed or fear. So either of them, the human mind will fall for it, right? They do a good job. I'm not doubting on it, but I'm saying, how do you engage as a universities which are not like an, Ahmedabad or Bangalore or AIMS and all, but we should learn to sell as well, and that is a skill. Whether you start with some small pilots, showcase those small pilots of how you guys could contribute, and then more companies will come. Sometimes we also lack of how do we market our work. We don't know how to market our work, right? I think there's a lot of things we can learn. Certainly, I think as long as we are always looking for brands, and that's what I keep telling in my company for my HR, I always don't want to go for all big schools. I like to go to the tier 3 and tier 4 or tier 2 schools as well to hire talent. Because I look for in a very different, I don't look just academic excellence. More importance is a personal excellence. If the people are personally excellent, academics doesn't matter, they can learn. So I think it's also change of the mind of how we see things and how we look at engaging. So for example, in one of the sessions, I went to IIM Raipur. I met the students, and I went to IIM Bangalore. I met the students. I didn't see much difference in kind of what the knowledge they have. Right? But
it's
when you
it's all the kind of maybe a slight difference in exposures that they may have got. It's all
exactly.
Student quality remains almost the same.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. So, like you are talking about so high-end technology we should give to the like our student and all those things. But is it so much? How much it is practical? Because as a teacher, first we have such a high level of that the standard you are giving. So first, if we acquire, then only we can impart to the students. But it is not in the curriculum. Then the students are also not so interested. Why to learn so much extra thing? And college also have so much admin work also to the teachers. So in that situation, what you will suggest, Mr. What should be as a teacher, what should be my role in that? How should I handle and proceed with this thing?
You asked a very, very important question. I didn't get your name or to see you, but thanks
So,
for asking this question. Because
my
this
name is
is
Muskan Singh, sir.
okay, great,
Yeah,
great,
thank you,
Muskan.
sir.
So this is really important. I think you asked very valid question, and I want everyone to start introspecting. Everyone has a limited time. So one of the primary role for a teacher, right? And there is a joke in WhatsApp also, you might have heard. Okay, student have to learn all subjects, but we have for every subject one single teacher. So the teacher also can't teach maths, science, social, everything, right? So why do you expect a student to learn all the subjects? So the similar to correlation, if you relate, as a professor, one of the important jobs is not just transitioning an academic knowledge into student. Bigger role, the transitioning of academic knowledge to student to me is only 20%. For me, the bigger role of a university professor or a school teacher or a college lecturer is how do you coach them and guide them? You may not have the skill, but can you direct the student who is passionate of learning and guiding them what courses they have to do? That doesn't happen because we go with a structured format. I have 45 minutes to deliver this topic. I come and deliver and go. I think some of the behavioral mindset of the professors also have to change. There is, you said another important element. The student is not interested. Why am I lecturer bothered to stand there and shout and see that they pay attention? Right? So that's a tough job. I would say that is much tougher job what you guys do than what we do in office. And dealing with the students who are not that matured at the levels what we expect, even though at the university level, right? And we, given the current education system, the parents are also very much safeguarding. Earlier, they used to give a very free hand to the teacher or a professor to manage the students. Now that's not the case. So we have to find a way, be creative, to say that, okay, academic knowledge I'm going to provide, but I've also spent time for me to understand what is happening, which I explained, and share that knowledge back to the students saying that, guys, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to learn beyond your academics. And you don't need to teach and you don't need to learn. That's not humanly possible. But are you showing the right direction, where to go, which university to go, which technical, there's a lot of online courses. You don't need to go anywhere these days. Right? It is university education is, and other mindset I have to change is people are coming to B schools or IMA or IMB or whatever it is. And that's a mindset in the parents as well. They look at ROI, return on investment. Okay, I'm going to this school, I'm going to spend 25 lakhs. Okay, what is the job I'll get for my son or daughter? Oh, can he join at 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs? What is my ROI? Return on investment. As long as that thinking is there, the learning will never happen. The true learning will never happen. And if you see what is happening in the current industry, a lot of people who are doing mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering, and there are people who are doing the computers. But if you see, everyone is end up doing a computer job. Everyone want to go into IT. If you have to go to IT, why are you doing a mechanical engineering? Why are you doing an electrical engineering? Because in IT you get more money. You will be paid more money. That money element have to go away. I'm not saying money is not important, but that can't define your success in your profession. And that's the biggest mindset has to be changed from everyone. And believe me, as the industry survey happens, now what we are seeing, a lot of engineering roles which are coming up in big manufacturing companies, we don't have people. The young generation doesn't want to go and shred their energy and skill and learn in those hot areas in the factories. They don't want to work in factories. Everyone will work on a laptop. Is that humanly possible? No. Now, down the line, 10 years, because everyone, irrespective of the specialization they're doing in their courses, they are all getting into computer jobs, IT jobs. But there are so many other industries which need people. The whole mechanical knowledge, people don't have that. They might score brilliant scores, but practically they don't have. We don't have enough civil engineers. How will the infrastructure will grow in India? Right? You only have the experienced people who are guiding now, but the experienced people will not stay for so long. So eventually in India, we'll see a lot of crunch in this skill set. Right? And then people will ready to pay for those people. So I think a lot of things have to be thought through. Everything we can't just weigh in saying that it is an ROI, right? That's what the education been like now these days. And people complain about hospitals too. No matter it is a service oriented, people say it's a business. But nothing wrong about it, but be reasonable and be sensible. That's more important. Right? So I think parents' aspirations is always good. Students, they want their children to settle well. But what we don't guide them is that, look, there is a world of opportunities. Do you know that first to tell them? What is the world of opportunities we have? And look at match their interest. Sometimes you force your kid, oh, I want you to be a doctor. I want you to become an engineer. So that mindset of parents also have to change. Are you giving them the right direction? And let them choose in those paths. So I see a big gap personally on this space. Sorry, I might be a little bit philosophical in this, but I feel that that's a true reality.
Yes, sir, I totally agree with you. But sir, can you suggest how to fill these gaps? As rightly you said that parents have a different perception. They are not aware about the way you have put the information. What is the demand of labor in future? What kind of skill is required in future? But how to fill this gap? As I'm working in a school and I see the problem of the children, the parent perception, and rightly you said there is vast difference. The child is whether capable or not. But yes, parents want them to be engineer.
Yeah.
Okay, the child is capable of becoming a doctor, but no other profession or any skill the parent is focusing. So kindly suggest us what to do so that from the grassroots, from the school education, we can guide and we can nurture that skill of the child. First. Second thing, sir, you rightly talked about new education policy, but still it is on paper, sir. It is not implemented in school.
Yeah.
School doesn't have manpower. School still thinking, actually due to COVID, everybody is only thinking about their loss and profit. So nobody, I mean, from until unless from government side it become a compulsion, or what do you say, government put it compulsory that you have to implement. So and so far it is not done. It is on papers.
Yeah, so one thing is we keep on depending on government. Second, we want policies to be put in place. We define those policies, but no one implements it well. So there are multiple challenges, right? We can't solve the world hunger, as people say. But there are things which, as each individual, we can do. One, as a teachers, how frequently you take time to interact with the parents. When the parent-teacher meeting happen, I see I have two daughters. If you see the parent-teacher meeting, the parents ask question, or how well academically they're doing. No one asks, how is the behavior of my child in the school? How are they behaving respectfully to their colleagues? How are attentive? No one asks. When I sit with other parents in the class, when the parent-teachers meeting happening, the parents' questions are also so unreasonable to the teachers. They're only worried about, oh, maths, or 2 marks, and what is that? Why the 2 marks got detected? They'll fight with the teacher. The 2 marks doesn't make a big difference in the life. So I think that coaching of interaction of teacher parents has to be a little bit more meaningful. Talking about as a teacher, look parents, these are the skills that I identify in your child. So these are the areas you can help them put in to divert their energy, because these kids are of high energy levels. So I think that conversation of meaningful conversation is missing. We do a kind of conversation which is tick in a box. Oh, I have to conduct my parent teachers meeting. Oh, there are 50 students in the class or 30 students in the class. Let me finish this. So you're only a transactional. And that's what I see. I think we should move away from a transactional to more meaningful conversations. We don't discuss. That's a problem. And that's what I feel. And I keep telling, some of the parents meetings, I really surprised how the mothers jump on the teachers. Asking
Right,
half,
sir.
Half mark cut ho gaya, my child is this, he practiced well, he did well, maine tuition bhi lagwaya and all. I mean, this is all unnecessary. You're fighting just academic.
Very true, sir. Very true.
Have you identified what potential you have in your child? You don't know because you don't have time, because you are a working professional.
So, sir, according to you, if we have this kind of presentation for parents in our parent-teacher meeting and we guide them, see, this is the skill in future is going to in demand.
Exactly.
Do you think it will bring a change in their mindset?
Because a lot of parents also don't know.
Yes, sir, you're true.
They don't know.
Yes, sir, they don't know. Parents have no awareness. Maybe some, if I talked about a corporate sector, they're busy into their 12 hours job. So really, they don't have so much time to read and to analyze, as you must have done a lot of analysis about this presentation. So it really need a lot of time to think about and do a lot of analysis, which they don't have. Yes, sir, surely I will implement this kind of presentation, and thank you for such a wonderful session, sir.
Thank you so much, Kusum.
Sir, we'll be very happy if you share this presentation so that many people can get benefit out of this. I'm
happy. I've already sent this to Dr. Saima.
Yeah, I'll be sharing it, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, let me know if you need any help in the journey, because I'm really passionate about developing people.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. I'll be in touch. We will have such kind of orientation, and if you have some time, then spare and talk to parents. Really, it will benefit them.
I'll be happy to do that. I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm glad it is useful.
Any more questions before we close, participants? Okay, this brings us to the end of this day, and on the behalf of IILM University, I would like to extend my thanks to Mr. Sudhir Dasmantharao for his thought-provoking and enriching session, taking out your question and joining this afternoon. And we all definitely agree with you when you talked about attitude towards learning and how our graduates should be engaged and adaptable, and they should also show empathy towards the society. So these are some of the skill sets that corporates are looking in management graduates. Thank you, sir, for joining. And
yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope you all liked it and is useful the time spent today with me.
Thank you, sir. It was really very nice. Yeah.
Very informative and insightful and eye-opening for all of us.
And you guided us how to implement also. So thank you, sir.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy.